Now, first off, I would like to say on this Sabbath day, all praises be to the Most High, Ahaya, the great I am, in the name of his son Yeshua, and we thank him for another opportunity to come on this Sabbath to come before you, brothers and sisters, to bring forth some key information according to scriptures. Now, for a long while, you've had the Christian theologians teaching that one should not go into the Apocrypha, which is the King James Version Apocrypha. On countless occasions, a matter of fact, I think I have a 1611 right here. Thank you. Pass it to me, please. This is pretty old. I had this for a few years. But the original King James Version, 1611, which I have in front of you, okay, actually have the Apocrypha in it, brothers and sisters. And I know a lot of you have heard this part before, but I have to bring this out for the newer people who might come to the knowledge of the truth and may see us going into different records and think that it's outside the Bible, when in fact this has been hid from you by the authorities, the Jesuits and the Catholic Church, who is really over all the churches in the United States and the Western world. They really control the doctrine of all churches in America, all churches in the Western world. So you haven't received the truth concerning what records you should actually read. And they have shunned you from reading any information that would lead you to acknowledging yourself out of scriptures. And the King James Version Apocrypha, as you can see, King James Version Bible, you see the word right here, Apocrypha. So when going into the Apocrypha, we're not going into a different book. It belongs in the book. It was there when King James authorized the translation in 1611. But it was taken out. And the reason it was taken out is because the Roman Catholic Church, along with the powers that be, didn't want you as a people to identify yourself in the last days with the Holy Scriptures. There's information and key information that have you identify yourself. And also it identifies the lies that were told against you. There was an agenda against you that the Apocrypha speaks of. When I say you, I'm speaking of the children of Jacob, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the true biblical people. They knew it would come a time of awakening in the earth, so they needed to actually distort the truth and teach you false doctrine by first getting you out of the King James Version Bible altogether. Now, the majority of churches that I know, especially black churches, you will hardly find a King James Version Bible in there, let alone an Apocrypha. They've switched all the Bibles out to the NIV, the New International Version, which publishers, whose publishers are the same publishers that publish the Luciferian Bible. And they made you believe that the NIV was the better book based on the fact that it don't speak old Quaker English like the thous and the thees, and they claimed it would make it easier to understand, when in fact that is not the reason they switched out the King James Version Bible. They switched it out knowing that our people would begin to come back to the knowledge of the truth. You can't say that the thous and the thees and the yees and the old Quaker English was the problem when our grandfathers and great-great-grandmothers and those who came before us read the Bible the way it was, intact, and they were absolutely fine with it. So why did they switch it out? They wanted to take out any physical indication of the people. They wanted so that the people of the Bible would not be able to identify themselves in the Bible. They took out certain scriptures, like in the book of Matthew 18:11, where it says, "I come to save them which was lost." In certain scriptures, all through the Bible, they started taking scriptures out, but you would never recognize it. And on top of that, if they would take scriptures out of the regular Bible, then of course they would want to do away with the Apocrypha. Today we're going to show you undisputable proof that the Apocrypha belong in the Bible. And on top of that, we're going to show you one of the greatest secrets hid from the populations of the earth concerning what happens to the spirit once it leaves the body. And you would only get this. All Christians and all those who believe in the Bible would know this if they had the Apocrypha. They would understand it, because the scriptures in the Apocrypha leads us to the true understanding of what happens, that your body is eternal. And what they're telling you in secular education and other religions concerning reincarnation and all of that cannot be true. A lot of you don't know this, but reincarnation came in from the Gentiles, that whole ideology, that you come back over and over with an opportunity to get it right. It's absolutely farce, and it's an absolute trickery through Satan. It's trickery. We learned that through the pagans. All right? And later on, our people began to believe this. A lot of you don't know this, but the Sadducees, which were a Jew sect during the time of Christ, believed in reincarnation. So that Gentile teaching eventually crept into our teachings through time. But at first, not so. But going back to the Apocrypha, why is it that when you go to your Christian pastor or go to someone who believes in the Bible, they'll say, well, the Apocrypha, we heard of that, but it's not scripturally sound because it's not spiritually, or what they call spiritually inspired. That's what they're told to tell the followers or their parishioners that comes to their church, that it's not spiritually inspired when it speaks of, it's not prophetic concerning Christ because it doesn't speak of Christ. When it absolutely do speak of Christ. It even speaks of him destroying the eagle in the second Esdras, him going against the Edomites at the very end, him weaving himself a mountain in Esdras and fighting in vengeance against those who have enslaved his people. It's all through the Apocrypha. But if they can make you believe from an authority vantage point that the Apocrypha have no valid point or have no validity concerning Christ, then you'll just ignore it altogether. But let me show you that you don't even have a complete Bible if you don't have an Apocrypha. It so happened that a lot of you don't have to grab the 1611 King James Version. If you have a regular King James Version, just a regular Bible, you can go out and buy yourself cheaply at a Barnes and Nobles or one of those stores or online the Apocrypha. You can buy these 14 books separate, which will give you a complete 1611 King James Version if you already have a King James Version. So you don't have to buy a 1611. You can have your regular King James Version and buy yourself an Apocrypha. And a matter of fact, this came from Cambridge University to prove to you that the universities know the truth concerning our people and know the truth concerning the Apocrypha.
There's another version
what you
from
got?
Oxford University.
Okay.
Same thing right here. You see the end of the Old Testament, the book of Malachi. Flip over one page. The book's called the Apocrypha. And for those who have trouble reading the Old English, this is a good one. This is the regular KJV English Apocrypha. All right. So to add on to what you were stating.
The water. So the information is out there. Now, those of high religious education understand what we're saying. But we're here to bring it down to the lowest term, to the layman, to the poor person, to the lowest person who would never have access to this information and know the importance of it. Why? Because the poor people are the next leaders of this earth. Okay? Let me tell you, it's almost impossible for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. So they'll make you think you need to chase this money and go after the prestige, and that is what gives you some type of renown and some type of fame within our society. They have made it backwards where food get fame. When really, it's not even about the rich. And it's about you poor people. They didn't hide all this truth from the rich. They hid this information from the poor. They know that even Christ himself came out of very humble means. He came out of Nazareth, which was the ghetto of Israel. So they fear what might come from the lowest of the people. So we're here to make it easy to be understood on the lowest level so that you can get the truth concerning yourself and the truth concerning prophecies of this earth. That's the point. So that now, with this information, you can stand as one of God's children with the truth and do your part in this earth against the forces of darkness. So if one would like to ask us why we bring out this information, is it important? Why isn't we just teaching Christ or teaching Jesus? Listen, Christ is the truth. Everything is Christ. You understand? Yeshua says, I am the way, the truth, the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And what does that mean? If you're teaching truth, you are teaching Christ. You don't pigeonhole them into some type of doctrine that they have created to destroy you, like in the theologian seminary schools of Christian theology. So what we're telling you, what we're showing you, is being revealed through the Spirit of Christ. Proof that the Apocrypha is 100% correct, and proof that you do not have a complete Bible without the Apocrypha. Let's go to the book of Esther real quick. The book of Esther. And I need you to, we don't have to read the whole book of Esther. Let's go to the book of Esther. And tell me how many chapters you have there in the book of Esther, Elder Lawyer.
You got the book of Esther, chapter 10, and it ends at verse 3.
So the book of Esther in your Apocrypha ends at chapter 10, verse where?
Verse 3.
Now, how many verses you know? How many chapters you know in the Bible only have 3 verses? I mean, they could have made that easy by just extending those 3 verses to chapter 9, right? So here it is in our regular Bible that they have told you is complete. Now, mind you, everything in the Bible is correct as far as the context goes. Of course, a few words have been switched that you can actually go into the Hebrew and correct, but contextually, through context, the Bible is 100% correct. No errors when it comes to the context of the scriptures. But we see here that only 3 verses are in chapter 10 of the book of Esther. Now, we're going to go into your Apocrypha and see if we can find the rest of those verses. I need you to get that book out there, and I need you to tell the brothers and sisters out there the name of this book we're going into.
Let's get it right now.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let's get it there, but I want to show them in the table of contents here. Let me grab a highlighter here. Huh? I'm going to highlight it out so that they can see it. All right. In your Apocrypha, brothers and sisters, you have the rest of Esther. See that? That's the rest of Esther. Now, I wonder if the rest of Esther is going to start with the first chapter of Esther. No. Go to the rest of Esther real quick.
The title of the rest of Esther. It states the rest of the chapters of the book of Esther.
Go ahead.
Which are found neither in the Hebrew nor in the Chaldee. Part of the 10th chapter after the Greek.
Hold up. Show them that real quick. Right? The rest of Esther is right there. And guess where the rest of Esther picks up? No, it don't pick up from the first chapter. It actually picks up from the 10th chapter and the 4th verse. And then, well, you got it right there, the 11th chapter right there. See? The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther. So, if I'm speaking to a pastor or someone in the Christian church and looking to prove the validity of the Apocrypha, I'm not going to go into no back and forth conversation that can only lead to discourse. I'm just going to bring forth the information. I'll ask a clear question. Okay, if this book is not correct, I need you to tell me where is the rest of Esther. And they'll look at you like, Esther, what's that? What you mean the rest of Esther? Let's go to the book of Esther. Why is there only 3 verses in the book of Esther? Is there more? But they haven't been told anything about the book of Esther or the chapters in Esther. I've taken this to pastors and those of high regard within the church, and they were totally perplexed that Esther, the rest of Esther, was missing. Because they haven't been taught that in theologian seminary colleges. They've been these books have been purposely concealed from the leaders in modern day Christianity. So you don't even know about the rest of Esther. But in the book of the Apocrypha, if you would have gotten yourself a regular King James Version Bible, the rest of Esther would have been right there for you. See? They go to the 11th chapter, right there. So you don't have to argue this. You can bring forth the facts and say, well, listen, the Revelations tell you if you add or take anything away from the book, then what's going to happen? Let's get that in Revelations real quick to tell us what's going to happen to those who start taking books away from the Bible.
Revelation chapter 22, verse 8.
Read.
For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, the Most High shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book.
And you know that all these different religious Christian sects, which are harlots, daughters of harlots, of the harlot, the Jehovah Witnesses, on and on and on, have added and taken things away and created their own book. When they had no right. These people are not even Hebrews. They had no right to go into Hebrew records and say, well, this is what the people should see and this is why I'm doing it. What business is it of yours? Unless you're trying to conceal something. No one asked you to switch the words to make it easier for us to understand. Let the Holy Spirit work. Who are you? Read.
Verse 19. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy.
So if you take away from this book,
the Most High shall take away his part out of the book of life.
See that?
And out of the holy city, and from the things that are written in this book.
See, but those that are behind this conspiracy are Satanists. See? They're not looking for eternal life under Christ. They loathe and hate the Father. So they don't care anyway, because they believe under their Luciferian doctrine that Satan, their god Lucifer or Jobulin, is going to go back into space and take the throne of the Father and give them eternal life. So that's why they don't care, because they wasn't written in the book from the beginning. So are you going to follow them? Now, another reason that they don't want you to understand or know that the Apocrypha is spiritually inspired. It also breaks down those who are caught red-handed, changing the Bible and painting their own images in the book. Now, for those who are from down south, who've lived down south with your grandmother and grandfather and seen that big book up there on the mantelpiece. Growing up as a child, you're going through the Bible and you're seeing all these images, and children really can't read the Bible. So the Bible have become what? Pictures to them. So they'll go through the Bible and see Jacob's ladder and see Jacob wrestle with the angel. They'll see a naked guy sitting there fighting with an angel. I've seen all the pictures. Children revere all these pictures. See when it's supposed to be Abraham sitting there about to stab his son, and the angel stopping him, and Abram is sitting there and he's half clothed. Then you go to the end and see the crown of thorns that was on who we believe to be Christ at that time. But there's one point of emphasis, is that all these pictures throughout the whole Bible are white people. Now, I know some people like to say, oh, here we go, bringing color into it. I didn't bring color into it. When I was a child and opened up that book, the pictures were there. And through that, it psychologically trained me to believe that what my grandmother and grandfather held dear of high reverence was not us. See that? I didn't do that. Okay? But even that act of putting yourself in the Bible is actually written in scriptures. The Greeks did this. Mm-hmm. Even in old time, they did this. Let's see what the Greeks would do according to the Apocrypha.
This is 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 47 through 48.
Go ahead.
Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid open the book of the law. Wherein
they laid open the book of the law and did what?
Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
The heathen began to paint the likeness of their own images and put it in our record. See that? We didn't do this to their records. But they took our records once they were able to take us down and began to say that this is how Moses looked now. Moses is white. This is how Jacob looked now. Jacob is white. See that? We didn't do this. So that's another reason the authorities wanted the Apocrypha out. Because if you are in the church reading your whole Bible, and some of you go through your Bible and read it from front page to back at least 3-4 times sometimes, that you would run into this and say, well, hold up. If the heathen painted their images in the book of Maccabees, which is actually in the Bible, could this be the same heathen that put their images in my grandmother's Bible, in my grandfather's Bible? Mm-hmm. See? So listen, we don't make it a color issue. The color issue happened to us a long time ago when we opened up the book and revered people who are not the children of Israel. What you have there?
This is an image, just to go along with what you were saying.
Yeah,
image.
Look at this lovely image here.
The famous.
But they tell us, listen, don't even discuss color. What's this?
The famous statue of Moses.
Oh my! Look how sweet this is. This is beautiful for you. We're about to do a drum roll and show you Moses.
The famous statue of Moses by Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, which was a known pedophile and a nasty sodomite.
In the Church of St. Peter of Rome.
St. Peter, Rome. They're going to Moses for you.
You notice he got horns coming out.
Look at his horns. This is actually a statue of Zeus. See? Statue of Zeus with 2 horns. They say it's Moses. But if you bring this out, even though they have put these pictures up, you can pass around everyone's ear. They have placed these pictures up. If I point this out, that makes me racist. Now, what's wrong with this society in which you can't even bring truth unless someone bring race in? When really we're not the culprits. We're not the ones that did this. We're just explaining to you that if these people have lied and put their images in our records, then okay, let's exclude their images and say, well, okay, if these are not the people, who are the real people? Let's not even talk about them. Let's now do some fact finding and say, well, if they would go through all these great lengths to psychologically manipulate the poor and manipulate the people, let's ignore their pictures now and find out who the real people are. Because obviously someone is lying here. And see, Christ is about truth. You see that? It is deep that now we look at it. Now I understand that all through society and through media, now I understand how when they portray us in infamy. Just like the guy they so-called drugged up this weekend and claimed Alexis. What black person going to name their child Alexis? That lets you know something is wrong. This guy they claim did something on a naval base. It seems like they have us looking into the information in scriptures to see themselves and revere them as high regard. But in the media, we're some crazed out people running around doing things that's not right. That's how we're portrayed. All right? But getting back to the point here, because we're going to deal with that a little later. In the Apocrypha, out of your King James Version Bible, it tell you the people who would do it. That the heathen, they mean these people are not even Israelites, would paint their pictures and put it into our books. Now the picture I showed you, that's not far from what you would understand. Why? Because you've seen these pictures before in your mother and your grandmother's book. And didn't even notice that these people are not even wearing Hebrew garb.
Exactly.
They're all dressed like Romans and Greeks. But that's what you can do to a sheltered society. And that's what you can do to slaves. And when I say slaves, I'm not just talking about black people. In order for them to perpetuate this lie, they had to lie to their own people. Okay? Wisdom of Solomon.
Wisdom of Solomon 14, verse 8.
Now, mind you, we didn't even get into the deep secrets yet. This is just minimal what we've discussed up until this point. We didn't even get into the deep secrets that we're about to reveal today. Read it.
Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 8.
Go ahead.
But that which is made with hands is cursed as well as it.
That which is made with hands is cursed. Now, what is the Most High speaking of here? In Wisdom of Solomon, it's speaking of idolatry. That means you make something with your hands, fashion it with your hands, and pray to it. So it's cursed according to the scriptures. So that's wrong to have any color, let alone praying to white people. Any color or image you shouldn't put to bow down to. That's what the scriptures tell you. That's what the law tells us in Exodus, the 20th chapter. Okay? But when you go to your church, when you grew up with your mother, your father, you've seen that image on the wall, and that image was held in high regard. Your mother dusting it off, making sure it's shining and making sure it's looking good. And she got Mahalia Jackson on with the gospel music playing. So that made you believe that this is something sacred. So when you did something bad, or, you would go and you would bow to this person whom was nothing more than a cursed idol. But listen how the Apocrypha identify this and breaks this down. And it makes it crystal clear why the Catholic Church, why theologians would love to eradicate this book from the minds of those that go to church. It says, that which is made with hands is cursed.
As well as it, as he that made it.
And the person who made the image is also cursed. Why? Because in Exodus, the 20th chapter, it tells us we cannot make images of anything in heaven or in earth and pray to it. It's an abomination to the Creator. See? But when the Catholic Church came around the earth and the Jesuit order, yeah. The Jesuit order, you had the Knights Templar and all of them, they came with swords and made people bow and worship the images. It's part of religion, brothers and sisters. And don't tell me Christ, and then some people try to ignore it and say, I know that's a picture, but Christ is in my heart. If Christ was in your heart, that picture wouldn't be on your wall. The Christ you believe that's in your heart is that same picture. Because that's what your heart believes. Read. And let's see what came with the image. Because some people will say, well, hold up. I'll take down the image now because it doesn't matter. But do you still hold the philosophy in the religion that came with the picture? That's the question. Because the picture is not the only deception. And that's what the Apocrypha breaks down. Something came with the image. Read.
He because he had made it, and it because being corruptible it was called God.
Being corruptible, it was called God. And let's see. Now, mind you, this was years before the Rodrigo Borgia family, which you can actually see a series on now. And the popes came up with this idea of painting false images. You have to realize we're talking years and years before the Roman Catholic Church that Wisdom of Solomon is speaking of here. So this is a prophecy concerning them actually injecting themselves in our book. Read it.
Verse 9. For the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto the Most High.
Read.
For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it.
So the people that are promoting these images will be punished. And the image will be punished. Read.
Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation.
On the idols of the heathen there shall be a visitation. Read.
Because in the creature of the Most High they are become an abomination.
Read.
And stumbling blocks to the souls of men.
They have become a stumbling block to God's people.
And a snare to the feet of the unwise.
That means people who are not that learned, and usually that's what happens to slaves. You can only get the education given to you by those who've enslaved you. So you're not that wise concerning this particular history. It became a snare to you. Why? You have many people out there with all these issues and problems that need the Bible. They need the book. The book is the only answer. Not your pills, not your psychiatrists, not your doctors, not Oprah, not Dr. Phil. The Bible is the answer. But you have so many people that now will not even go into the Bible because they believe the book is not theirs. Based on them, the heathen, placing their images in the book. They'll just ignore all this wealth of information out of the Bible strictly as a revolt against white people. See that? So that became a snare to them. I know some people are spiritual enough to get over what they've done, but others are not. Others will look at it and say, well, if these are the same people that delivered me the Bible and did all these things to me, I don't want the Bible either. See? Because they've been taught that the Bible don't belong to them. See? And all the wealth of information, especially prophecy, is now being ignored. And we're living in an earth of unholiness, an earth of total sin. Read.
Verse 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
So the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication. And guess what? You can't go into a Catholic church without tripping over one. They're everywhere, even outside. You're not supposed to have the dead with the living. No, as soon as you go to a Catholic church, you see a cemetery. You see dead people buried right in front of the church. You want to walk in there? You're not supposed to have the dead with the living. That's an abomination in itself. That's the worship of the dead. So when you're lighting a candle to this saint or that saint, some of these people who have died in the church, whom the Catholic Church calls saints, are buried in that same church you're praying to. Read.
And the invention of them, the corruption of life. Verse 13.
Now it's going to go into the story now.
For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever.
Go ahead.
For by vainglory of men they entered into the world.
By vainglory of men they entered into the world. When it says vainglory, when our people were taken down, the conquistadors and the Indians and all the people that were brought under enslaved ships, when they were taken down, the conquerors, through their flattery, through their boastfulness, would say, I can get these people who was once great people to bow to our leaders, who are the real children of gods. So they would take down those of Sadducee or those of ancient understanding within every tribe, and they would set up their own selves as gods in reverence to the king. And guess what? The Apocrypha gives us these details. Read.
For by the vainglory of men they entered into the world.
Go ahead.
And therefore shall they come shortly to an end. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning.
For a father inflicted with untimely mourning.
When he hath made an image of his child, soon taken away.
So an image of a man's child was taken away.
Now honored him as a god.
And in a foreign land, they honored this same child as a god. Now, this is deep. I understand why the Catholic Church was in cahoots of taking this out. Because this was a prophecy of the Romans, Rodrigo Borgia, okay, the sixth Pope of Rome, having his son, Cesar Borgia, taken to a foreign land and be reverenced as Jesus. That's your white image. See? Now, Cesar Borgia wasn't even a good guy. He was a triptych of poisoners. The Rodrigo Borgia is where you get the original family from the movie. That's where they get the base narrative from the movie The Godfather. Mm-hmm. He killed off all his enemies through poison to gain the throne. And this son, who was known as an evil man in Rome, was reverenced as a god to slaves.
They even show that in a video game Assassin's Creed.
Okay, well, they say it's even in the video game Assassin's Creed that the Borgia family were murderous, Satanists, and the same evil people that took over the New World. Listen, as a compliment to the satanic people who took over the slaves, as a compliment to them, they said, well, we're going to have your son worshipped as a god in this new land. And that's where you get your Jesus is God from. Because when your child see that picture of Cesar, they're looking at their God. See? Now the Apocrypha breaks it. Listen what the Apocrypha tells us. There's no way you can read this in the church if this was part of your Bible and not identify with the images on your wall. So they say, well, listen, the slaves are waking up. We need to take this book out. And in 1928, they said, you know what? We're not going to need this anymore. The slaves are waking up. So when they get a Bible, by the time they realize what's going on with them, we're going to have them out of the Bible altogether. And a matter of fact, we're going to make them believe that God don't even exist. But let's first make sure we take this out because we're caught red-handed. We're caught red-handed being idolaters and putting up Cesar Borgia. What verse you left off at there?
Verse 15.
Verse 15, read.
For a father afflicted with untimely mourning.
That was a prophecy of Rodrigo Borgia. Listen, over probably 1,000 years before Rodrigo Borgia was born, this was written. Read.
When he had made an image of his child soon taken away.
He made an image of his son, Cesar Borgia.
Now honored him as a god.
Now everyone in the Western world who was enslaved, the North American Indians, our people who knew the truth concerning the origin of people before our foreparents were enslaved. So they would kill the ancient and teach the children these lies. They would teach the children to reverence them as gods, cut them off from their culture, and give them a new culture. And listen, it's no surprise now that the whole game of terrorism that they're planning and have created have now been aimed towards us. They know we're waking up. So they need a reason to engage us now that the Most High have revealed the truth. So they're going to just make up the net. It wasn't about bin Laden, brothers and sisters. It was about you the whole time. Now you see the new face of terrorism, right? Because you're no more good to them. Awaken. So they'll take some child they have programmed that they took from their family a long time ago, dope them up, make them an MK Ultra project, and just set them loose. Then kill them and give you the new face of terrorism. All right? Because they know you're waking up. You are not susceptible to the lies anymore. You're starting to find out that you're the children of Jacob. And you're pulling away from this satanic system. You're pulling away from the hand that fed you, the beast. And they can't stand it. So now they're coming after you. Jacob's trouble. We're going there in a moment. Read.
Which was then a dead man,
He was a dead man over in Europe.
and delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices.
So it's deeper than the image, because not only did you get that false image, you also got Christmas. You also got Easter. You also got Sunday Mass. You got all these different ceremonies and sacrifices that had nothing to do with the Bible. Christ was not born on December 25th. That's the worship of Tammuz, the virgin child of Semiramis, or what they would call the reincarnation of Nimrod, that they celebrate every Saturnalia. And we know that Saturn is another name for Satan. That's why they do it during the dead of winter. Have nothing to do with Christ at all. So they delivered those things to you, the same people who delivered you the false image. Now, does this make you racist for saying this? For actually speaking the truth? Think about this. And on the flip side of this, why would they go through so great of lengths to hide this from the masses? That means the people whom they're hiding this from are highly important. They must be highly important. Read.
Verse 16. Thus in process of time,
Through process of time, that means as years went on,
an untimely custom or an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
now this ungodly custom, which was sinful, is now part of tradition now. The culture, through time, the American culture and the Western world culture believes that this is righteous. Every Christmas when the family get together, every Easter, going to church on Sundays, when really it's unlawful and it's sinful. It was evil from its inception. But through tradition, because they sensationalize these satanic days, you believe it's part of your actual being. You believe you're not even worshiping God if you don't follow them. See? They did this through time. Let me tell you, the adversary is very patient. Read.
Thus in process of time,
Through process of time,
an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
now this custom was kept as a law. Read.
Engraven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
And with this came graven images. I don't know, guess what? A lot of our people have been predisposed to idolatry and don't even know it. It's nothing for our people to go to some type of store and get what you would call a knick-knack. Little thing to put on your counter or get a mask that you got, an African mask that you got, and think it's culturally sound? I remember growing up and your mother would sit there and have some type of thing on a coffee table with an egg in it, shape of an egg. It was like a marble egg or a gold egg. It looked like some type of centerpiece. So it's so embedded in our society that we go out and get little things and put on our shelves and don't even realize that's an act of idolatry. Because we're ignorant to history, you don't know that jinns, demons, sorcerers, all of them be praying different spirits into these different idols you be buying and taking home. And because your heart falls to these particular idols, your spirit is in it. Something made you desire to have this. Now you are part of the spirit you're taking home with you. I don't know how many things you look on your mother and your grandmother's shelf and see, like, what's that? What's that? What's that? Oh, I got this from there and I got this from, and the stuff means nothing. And they have no idea that it's idolatry. And they usually put it on a mantelpiece or a high piece. And a lot of you don't even know that even mantelpieces in your house, they created them under Masonic orders as a shrine to worship the dead. That's where you get your mantelpieces from, where you put all your pictures and all your stuff on. When you look back, it's a place of worship. Look at it. It's an altar. It's an altar. It's a shrine to the dead. It's a mausoleum. But we've been so inbred and conditioned by the pagans. But finish reading.
Verse 17. Whom men could not honor in presence.
Why they couldn't honor Sesra in presence?
Because they dwelt far off. They took the counterfeit of his visage.
Counterfeit means fake. They took the fake face of this man, this man's son, which was Sesra Borgia. Read.
They took the counterfeit of his visage from far.
They mean it took his fake face from far. So if we identify this fake face or counterfeit face, it's not racist. It's actually showing you the hands of Satan lying on God's people. So that when God's people awake, they're not going to see themselves in the book. They're going to see a counterfeit. See? And they'll reverence a counterfeit. See? Read.
And made an express image of a king whom they honored.
And they made an image of a king they honored.
To the end that by this, their forwardness, that they might flatter him that was absent, as if he were present.
They did this to flatter the king. They did this to flatter the Pope. They made a known sorcerer, a known potion maker, a poisoner, the son of Rodrigo, Jesus Christ, whom you call Jesus Christ. I didn't do this. So are we wrong for identifying it? So when you look at the Apocrypha, you must view it differently. It's a treasure of history that's hidden from you. Don't listen to what those that have programmed you. Don't listen to the lies they will tell you to stay away from the book. Don't listen to it. It's actually identifying those who've enslaved you. It's identifying what we would call religious captivity, religious servitude. It's identifying those who have done it to you. So we can embrace the book without their influence. And that's what the hierarchies, the principalities and high places fear. Read on.
Verse 18. Also the singular diligence of the artificer.
And the artificer, that means they paid their artist, like we see Michelangelo putting up a picture of Zeus as Moses.
Also the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition.
So they had to make the false images so that they can actually do what? Read that part again.
To set forward the ignorant.
To set forth the ignorant.
To more superstition.
To more superstitions. They needed the pictures to enforce their lie. Because back then you didn't have movies. You didn't have films like like Cecil B. DeMille's 10 Commandments. So back then they had art. They needed art to solidify the lie. Man, the Apocrypha breaks this down. It breaks it down in its totality, right? Read.
Verse 19. For he peradventure, willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion.
So they paid these artists top dollars doing what this earth history calls the Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. So if you were always in charge and always in position, why did you need a rebirth? Because we know that the true Jews, people of color, ruled during what they call the quote-unquote dark ages of Europe. So this was the Caesars in a rebirth, bringing themselves back into power, starting with the Borgia family. Then they began to, after they seized power of Rome, they began to paint all the artists to influence the New World, to worship Europeans as God. And guess what? It's coming back around now. It's coming back. Not only is the truth being revealed, those that have perpetrated this fraud and are an accomplice to it and won't reveal the truth concerning it, all the people, the things that have happened to the population and the poor people that you have allowed to happen for so long is now happening to you. It's going to come back on you. Don't think that you can sit back and just see an egregious sin and it don't come back on you. You thought it wouldn't affect you, didn't you? But one thing about a lie, if you continue to lie, the lie just will expand. And it will just expand and take up all the space, and with you included. So that's the time we're in now, to where the system and the people under Satan, they can't lie anymore. So they have no recourse but to revert to physical war against God's people, like Nero did in the past, like Vespasian and Titus did in the past. They know that we are awakened now. And it's too many of us that are awakened all at once. So they have no recourse but to engage us physically now. Lie on us and make a pretext to come after our people. And that's why, again, I would like to emphasize they've switched the narrative from so-called Arabs to black people. That's why they have switched the narrative. They are coming after those who believe the truth, because we will not be absorbed into this mark of the beast system. We will pray against it, and we know before everything is said and done, our Lord and Savior is going to come and make this right. And we in the spirit at that time will fight on the right side of justice upon the coming of our Lord and Savior, Christ. And let me emphasize this, because I know some people are trying to spin this their own way. Christ is not going to be somebody born. He's not going to be amongst people like a David Koresh or somebody. He's not going to be no Ben Ami and going to be getting people together in some type of circle somewhere saying he's Christ. Okay? Because they'll use that and say, well, this is what they're talking about doing something. No. We talked about the coming of Christ, according to the Bible, out of the sky, that every eye shall see. Mm-hmm. Okay? Let's read it, that last part.
This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 20.
Read.
And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god.
Now the people, so impressed by the artistry of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, took what?
Took him now for a god.
They took this criminal from Rome as a god,
which a little before was but honored as a man.
That was a little before honored as a man. Read the 21st verse.
Verse 21. And this was an occasion to deceive the world.
And they used this to deceive the whole world. Now I understand why they want to take the Apocrypha out of the Bible. It identified the culprits who have deceived and lied to the whole world. And one of the greatest lies was putting up themselves as Christ, as the angels, as the children of Israel, as the Jews. Now, I'm not even going to go into the part where it actually gives you the mindset of what they're thinking. Like matter of fact, let's go there because it tell you about how they would sit back and watch us and how they're mad that now we're saying that we're the children of God. So because of this, they're going to come after us, and by them coming after us, they're going to say, well, where's your God now? This is what we're doing to you. Where's your God? So first of all, they're upset now that we found out that we're the true people. So the wicked sit back and ponder and examine us. And then it's going to come to a point that when we come to the truth, they say, okay, you God's people. But guess what? Let's see if he's going to save you from what we're about to do to you. They'll get one of those toys they wound up like this Alexis guy and just make him the face of all black people and say, okay, everybody we come after, we're going to say knew him. Oh, yeah, he was a friend with him on Facebook. Oh, he Skyped this guy. They're going to use this global net to tie all you people who did nothing wrong to this guy. See? They're going to say, okay, if your God is the true God, let's see if he can save you from what we're planning. That's in the Apocrypha too. Mm-hmm. Let's read it.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man.
It tell you that the wicked will say in the very end, let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let's oppress them. Let's separate them. Let's destroy them. Let's make laws that whatever they do is a crime. No matter what they do, let's tax them for it. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Now, you would want to know this if it was in the Bible, right? Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Read.
Let us not spare the widow.
And let us not spare the widow. Let's not even care about the woman without a husband. Read.
Nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age.
And we will not respect their elders either. Read.
Verse 11. Let our strength be in the law of justice.
Let us use the law to oppress these people. Hey, we'll just say, well, I'm sorry I got to do it. It's the law. I'm sorry I got to pull you over and stop and frisk. It's the law. Oh, I'm sorry that, you just fit a description of this Alexis guy. You look kind of like him. Of course, you're in a hospital with a broken leg and your eye hanging out, and you might not be able to walk again. It's the law. Read.
For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth.
Because you're not worth anything. It tells you they're going to do this because they believe you're nothing. They're going to tell you, they're going to publicize all on the news programs and all on TV, be all you can be in the army and have you sitting there standing up straight and looking all sharp, running through things and high technology, and you get in the army and be like, man, it's nothing like the commercial. They're shooting you with all these drugs and bugging you out of your mind and making you into an MK Ultra project. Mm-hmm. Throwing you in infantry, and then if you find out what's really going on, hey, you better not say anything because there's a such thing as friendly fire. They'll kill you, put you in a bag, and go lie to your parents and claim that you were storming a mountain, that you was a hero. See that? It tells you they don't care about you. So of course they had to take this out of the Bible. Like, well, we can't have them have this, see this, that we'll use the law against them. How else we can get them? Oh, let's get them in family court. Even though the family courts are illegal, because we know we've caused the division between them anyway, so there's going to be a lot of issues. So when one get a problem, let them come to court so we can tax both of them. Okay. Come on, come on. No one is paying up like they care about your children. They don't care if your children are being taken care of. They could care less. But they want you to come to those courts because it's not just him or her you're getting under wraps. They're going to get both of you. Now you sign over yourself as a property to the courts. See? Read.
Verse 12. Therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous.
They say, you know what? We'll lie in wait for you. Read.
Because he is not for our turn.
He says, we're going to do everything to try to conspire against them because these people, these poor righteous people, are not for us. They loathe the American dream. They're not caught up in the deception, the satanic prosperity deception. He says, we're going to lie in wait, and we're going to wait for something to happen to come against them. Why? Because they are not for us. Read.
And he is clean contrary to our doings.
And he says, these people are clean contrary to our doings. They go into this Bible and look at the law and say, you're not supposed to do these things that we glorify. You're not supposed to be a homosexual. You're not supposed to be a pedophile. You're not supposed to be a killer or murderer. You're not supposed to go into a country and kill children, men, women, and children under the auspices of democracy. You're not supposed to eat pork, shrimp, crab, lobster. So when we speak of these things, they like, y'all contrary to us. The things we glorify, you people loathe. Why? Because you believe in the Bible. So we must teach your children that the Bible is just a book that was written by men. That it really have no validity whatsoever. See? Read.
He upbraideth us with our offending the law.
That's how you know it's speaking about us. They are mad that we upbraided them. We try to correct them of how they offend the laws of Moses. What are you doing worshiping on a Sunday? That's not the Sabbath. Why are you worshiping the sun god? Because that's what the Babylonians did on a Sunday. That's what the Romans did on a Sunday. And ironically, with no coincidence, these are the same people that gave you your churches, that have set up your churches. Sun worshipers. See? So they are upset with us because we went to the Bible and said, well, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. They put aside the laws of the God, of the Most High, and then they'll upbraid you, or they will reprimand or penalize you for breaking their law. So what are they doing? They're saying their laws are above God's laws. See? They even got your Christian church tell you, follow the laws of the land. But if you say, well, here's a law, pastor, that the Bible says you should follow. Oh, the law is done away with in the Bible. But follow the law of the land. So you fear the law of the land more than you do the Most High God. How can you put man's law over God's? See? Finish reading.
And objective to our infamy the transgressions of our education.
And we tell them that their education is foolish. It is foolish. How can you have an educational system that actually tax the people and make them greater slaves? I thought I was going to school to be free and have more in life. When yet, if I go to school, by the time I get finished paying my school debt, I'm 80 years old. When the guy that dropped out of 6th grade became an entrepreneur and a millionaire, and he don't owe the government anything. How stupid and foolish is this educational system when you have to be in debt to learn? It seems like it benefits the person that drops out. At least the person know that, man, listen, all this stuff I'm going to school for, I'm not even going to actually do in life. Wouldn't it be more advantageous, like it was in the past, for me to learn one thing and become good at it now? Instead of all this junk you throw in just to spread out my education for 4 or 5 years? Why don't I, if I want to be an electrician, why isn't all my classes that year for being an electrician? Why? Because they can't spread that out 4 years. So they'll give you all this junk and have you pay for it. And here it is, when you get out into the public sector, you're not even using none of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we tell them that their education is foolish. In ancient days, you became what your father was. If your father was an undertaker and buried people, you became an undertaker. You learned under your father. If your father and mother had a farm, you were a farmer. That's education you get just through living. And through that education, you learn to count, you learn to read, because that's how you barter and do business. That's common sense. That's common sense. So we tell them how stupid their education is. As a matter of fact, people go into colleges to become more stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. Because why? The first thing they do in college is try to brainwash you with all these different religions. And then it's freedom time. You've been held back all that time. So it's 4 years just to go into total unlawful sin and be indoctrinated into a Masonic society. Fraternities marking themselves, branding yourselves, and thinking, and other people looking at you, oh yeah, he belonged to Alpha Phi Psi and all this, and you like, yeah, I'm in there. You like respected for being cattle. You're branding yourself like a cow, and you're respected. Everyone is saying, man, I want to get in there. I want to be branded too.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we upbraid you according to your education too, because it's ridiculous. And now, we've told people for years, they're closing down all the schools now to show you that it wasn't about education anyway. It was government programming and simulating you into the system. Okay? That's what it was. But they don't need that. They're moving on to the next level of their plan now. Those same institutions that used to be schools will soon be detention. Yes, detention centers. And on top of that, they're going to have these centers be preparation centers for the fusion centers they have. So you wonder why they're shutting down the schools? It have nothing to do with funding. They can print money out of thin air. Okay? If they wanted the schools there, you would have the schools. So don't lie about the funding. They have no need for that because there's no jobs for you to get in the future anyway. They've moved all your jobs out to the other countries. So what are they going to do with all this facade you call education? All these people who are aspiring to be something to make the country great when the country will soon be broken up. Okay, now they're moving money into the what? The army sector, the security sector, from all these people that will be a product of civil unrest. That's where they're moving the money at now, knowing that there is no jobs, there is no future. So now they must move it into what? Extermination, detention, and eventually slavery of the whole planet leading to the mark of the beast. That's where we're going. So yes, they're closing down the schools. The schools are nothing. They're moving it into the next sector now. But it tells you in the Wisdom of Solomon that we would actually upbraid them according to their education. We would tell them how ridiculous their educational system is. Why? How is it I'm so educated when you ask me a question concerning my family and where I come from, and I'm looking at you with a blank stare? How smart am I if I don't even know who I am? Anyone can learn how to work on an assembly line, or how to change a car belt, or to do this or do that, or pump gas. Anybody can learn that through repetition. That's not smart. But how many people out there learn the truth concerning themselves and the system they were born in? So education is not education at all. It's total foolishness. So they're mad because we say that. It tell you that in Wisdom of Solomon. They get upset because we tell them how foolish their education is. Read.
13.
Now, let's make this clear, because some people out there try to take what we say out of context and not really get the idea of what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying that if you are in school, you should drop out? Absolutely no. Because what you do with the knowledge the Most High gives you, you can use that education if you have the knowledge of the Most High. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. So we're not saying, some people out there, you young people, you might be in school, say, well, it's time for me to drop out. Ain't no good. We're not saying that. Because Luke was a Theophilus. You had Josephus, who was a great historian, who actually worked with the Romans because he had the education not only of their society, but his own. So what we're saying is, learn the truth concerning yourself, and then you learn their education so that you can now use it for your turn. Know the ins and outs of it so that you can use it for the betterment of your people. Let me make that clear, because I like to put that out there. But we tell you how foolish the education is. You got some people who can run a football or play with a basketball. You get free education, of course, because you're making the university billions of dollars. Like, listen, I'll tell you what. I'll pay for my own education. And why don't you pay me for me running up and down this court? Because that's where y'all making y'all real money at.
Mm-hmm.
But our people can't come together enough to even think about something like that. Read on.
Verse 13. He professeth to have the knowledge of the Most High.
This is why they're upset with us. And they tell you in the Wisdom of Solomon that these people profess that they got the knowledge of the Most High. They're not listening to our wine of Babylon that we brought over from the Roman Catholic Church. They don't believe our doctrine, the slave doctrine. They claim that they got the knowledge of the Most High. And then they'll look at you and say, well, what school did you go to? And you'll look at them and say, well, I didn't go to no school. That's the point. I haven't been programmed. So it's not how many plaques you got on the wall. Because Christ didn't have no plaques on his wall. Neither did Moses. Neither did none of the disciples or prophets. Okay? So think about that. The Bible says he's going to use the base people of this world to confound the wise. Because if we got the education from your system, then you would get the credit. The Most High is going to use the uneducated to tear down this system and show you how ridiculous it is. See? Why? Because people that learn through what they would call linear learning, they only learn to do one thing and only educated in one area, and they don't have no knowledge in any other area outside of what they're taught. That's limited education. See? But when someone have to feel their way and learn their way, they become diverse because the Spirit leads them. And that's something that you can't understand. The Spirit, they do what they have to do to survive. And that's an entirely different education you can only get through living. And when you look at it, the people in the Bible, I like to reference them all the time, like Joseph. He was thrown into a pit, left for dead, sold to the Egyptians. And his circumstance, the Most High was with him. He eventually began to rule all of Egypt. He didn't go to no school to become governor or leader of Egypt. You understand? But the Spirit was with him, and his circumstance, he operated in his circumstance and learned with his surroundings and was keen of what to do to make it. That's an education you can't get by sitting in a class looking at someone write on a chalkboard. That's education through the Spirit. And see, they are afraid for you to operate like that. Because if you operate like that, you don't need them. You understand that there's another mechanism working outside of this system, which is a spirit in which some of you ignorantly call God. That it can help you if you're not dependent on this system. If you depend on this system for education, you'll become a slave. And how many people out there that owe their colleges and owe their schools tens of thousands of dollars and don't even have a job? Don't have anything. On public assistance and social programming. and social and welfare and all these things. And you sit there with a piece of paper that's worth nothing. And soon, with everything about to break out in this earth, it would only be good for one thing. Because there's not going to be any toilet paper. Finish reading what we have here.
Verse 13. He professeth to have the knowledge of the Most High,
Go ahead.
and he calleth himself the child of the Most High.
This is what they're mad of in the Apocrypha. It tells us they are mad because these people not only profess to have the knowledge of the Most High, they what?
He calleth himself the child of the Most High.
He calleth himself a child of the Most High. The children of the Most High in the Bible are Israelites. They're God's people. I found out now that certain times our brothers go to certain places, they be in question. Are you an Israelite? Or do you believe that you're a child of Jacob? You believe that you're from the children of Israel? Why would they ask these questions now? They're now asking people now, like, what do you believe? Do you believe you're an Israelite? Why would they ask these questions? Brothers and sisters are being questioned with this now. Why? As long as you believe that you were black, African American, or any other misnomer or whatever you call yourselves, everything was fine, wasn't it? Now, listen, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to put it out there now. Let's document it. And I need y'all to save these and date these so that we can pull these out at a later date. It won't be too long before one of these so-called wound up nut jobs that they'll create themselves. Because as far as we know, this Alexis guy don't even exist. As far as we know, he did nothing. That was a staged situation in a closed setting. So they can put any narrative they want on that.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out, this Alexis guy, he looked just like the guy that was over in England. They claimed decapitated somebody. It looked like the same exact guy. But even though we don't know what really happened, and I could care less, I'm just looking at the overall perspective of scriptures of what they will do to come after us, according to how the Most High say that how they really feel about us. They will use a narrative of this Alexis guy, but it have nothing to do with him. It have everything to do with the people that they will engage. Remember when there were so-called Arabs that ran into 911 and you had old Texas hillbilly saying, we're going to go get ourselves some Arabs? Remember that? So now, if they got this guy running loose, next thing you know, they're going to be like, well, listen, we got to watch out for these people now. These black people, hey, they're the underwear bomber. They're the Christmas tree bomber. Oh, they went crazy over in the naval place. And it won't be long before they throw a Mitri, one of these. Even though I don't got my head covered at the top, this is a Mitri I have on. I wouldn't be surprised if they wrapped a Mitri on somebody they will whine that they've been programming a long time and try to attach them to some church or something and say that they did this or did that. Won't be too long. Won't be too long. Because they want to go after those who know the truth. That's what the narrative really is about. It's about them coming after the children of Jacob. Why? Because they don't like the fact that we profess that we are the children of God. Now, how do you know it's not talking about the people over in Israel today? Because there's no problem when everyone say they're the Jews. Who's fighting against that? They say they're the Jews and everyone is fine with it. But they are upset that we know that we are the Israelites, that we are from the tribe of Judah. We're from Benjamin. We're from Levi. We're from Simeon. We're from Zebulun. See? Our people are from the rich families of the Bible. Our bloodline links back to Christ, Mary, Joseph. See? So they're saying they claim they're the children of God. Well, we are. We fulfill Deuteronomy 28 when it says that we would go in the belly of ships and be sold to the heathen. When Christ says the Romans going to come against you, when the desolation is nigh, when they come after you with swords, flee into the wilderness. It was our people that fled over the Atlas Mountains into Africa, hiding from the Romans. Through time, we lost our identity, and eventually we are fulfilling the prophecies of going into captivity until Christ free us. That's the truth. So they had to take this Apocrypha out so that you don't realize the truth concerning yourself. Read.
Verse 14. He was made to reprove our thoughts.
It says he was made to reprove our thoughts. That means the Most High created us to correct their teachings. They would rather just go on and do what they want to do and have no one tell them that they're going the wrong way. They don't like that. They don't like, because why? They gain a conscience that way. They can't operate freely with someone showing them that they did something wrong or they're doing something wrong. Read.
Verse 15. He is grievous unto us even to behold.
He says we can't stand to even look at them. The fact that they're still living is a problem. Why? Because if they live, if one of them are left upon the coming of Christ, our time is done. Therefore, they set up eugenics, where they make it a right to choose to kill your own child, and claim that it was a feminist movement when the majority of people that are killing their children are only black people. So it wasn't a feminist movement. And a lot of our sisters are not even looking up and realizing what this is. What is a lesbian doing marching on a right to choose? Okay, a lot of them are together, don't even have a man, don't even have children. Why are they marching with women saying she should have a right to choose?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's a reprobate. She don't know up from down, left from right, but she know that your child is a threat. So they'll try to either program the child to be adverse to God, or say kill the child altogether because they are upset with the God who created that miracle in your womb. See? Read.
For his life is not like other men.
He says we need to get rid of these people because their life, we can't stand them because their life is not like us. Read.
His ways are of another fashion.
His ways are of another fashion. They got a different style. That's why they try to make unlawful any style we come out with. Not that I agree with every style, but for years I've seen down, when you look down south, I've seen hillbillies walking down with no underwear and their jeans sagging off and fixing tractors and all that. No one made it a law that you couldn't sag your pants then. But it seemed like every fashion, anything that we come up with, it's against the law. You notice that? It's against the law. Because why? Our fashion is not like them. You understand? And they don't like that. They want us to look like them. They want us to dress like them. They want us to talk like them. When really we need to deal with our own individuality according to the Most High. Not sinful individuality. But the Most High made us all different. And it's okay being different. Read.
We are esteemed of him as counterfeits.
Hold up. We are esteemed of him as what?
We are esteemed of him as counterfeits.
It says they are mad because we claim that they are counterfeits. Of course, the Bible says that they would take the counterfeit of their visage and put them up as a god. See? So we're telling them that no, regardless of what your religious history have taught you, you are not the people contained in the Bible. We're not saying that you cannot follow the Bible and reverence the Bible, but we're going to set the record straight. Christ was not Caucasian. The disciples were not Caucasian. They were not, and then they try to skew the line by claiming, well, they were Middle Eastern. Well, do you know that once we lived in the East?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to now use geographical location as if we don't know that we didn't begin in America. And then you'd be like, yeah, the Middle East, that is pretty far. That can't be us. Knock, 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 wake up. Where were you before you were in Africa? Okay, So when they say the Middle East, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. One of my forefathers, one of my brethren, Moses, he was from there. Our father Abraham, Middle East. So I agree with that Middle Eastern thing. But we're not Ishmael. We're Shem. See? Set the record straight. Now that we set the record straight, these have a problem with that particular understanding. They'd rather us say, well, it doesn't matter. God made all people. How ignorant of a statement is that? How ignorant of a statement, it doesn't matter. The topic is not how many people God made. That's not, you done shift the conversation. The question is, who pertains to the prophecies concerned in the book? That's the question. Not whether or not God made everybody. That's not even something that can be argued. But not once in history, have it been recorded where one race of people enslaved millions of another race. And I don't care what race you put on the table. There's no place in history where black people took 1 million white people into captivity, or 1 million Chinese people into captivity, or 1 million East Indians into captivity. It's not recorded nowhere. So you can't tell me that profound history is not contained in the Bible, and that it's of no significance. That's the first time in history that millions of people were enslaved by another race. That's Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. So that is important. Why? Because these people must come back to the Creator. These people, believe it or not, are the next leaders of this earth. And that's not boasting, it's the truth. Every nation have their time to rule. And ironically, the people who receive the law, statutes, and commandments through their downfall have not received their turn. And the Most High is righteous. He gave the earth to the Romans for a time. He gave it to the Greeks for a time, the Persians, the Babylonians. Every other nation on earth had their time to rule. And they know that the people who have enslaved through all those captivities who were enslaved, time is next. They understand this. So they have shifted the narrative to try to destroy these people before the prophecy is fulfilled. So you can't tell me it's not important. And you can't tell me that, well, God made all people, so we shouldn't even talk about this. There's a reckoning in the earth. With all the wars and the destruction of the earth, one empire is going down and another is rising right before your eyes. And it cannot be taken down by taking down a group. You understand? Because there is no group. Okay? There is no personal group. It's the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that transcends what group you are gathering with. They cannot destroy that. We are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Finish reading.
We are esteemed of him as counterfeits.
It says these same people that are reading this book are calling us counterfeits. And that's why they took this out of the Bible. They don't want you to read this. Read.
He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness.
And he abstaineth from our ways as filthiness. We do. We go into a restaurant and see them put some pork bacon, I'm just using it on a low degree, or some ham on the grill, and they think they can just throw what we're going to eat right after that. And we're like, excuse me, we need you to clean that grill. A matter of fact, I'm going to be back in an hour. And I want you to clean that grill. Or they'll sit there and have your food right next to some pork juice. No, we don't do that. But they'll look at us like, what? It's only grease. No, it's pork. Not only are we supposed to abstain from this abomination, it's against the law for our people to even touch it. Now that's royal. That's regal. That's a high people. We can't even be in the same room with a dead pig, let alone eat it. So they look at that and say, well, you think you're better than us? No, we don't think we're better than you. There's laws concerning what to do with these animals. And that animal is waste and disease. The Most High put the animal to eat the diseases before it gets to me. So if the carcass die and you open it up, what happens? The diseases contaminates mankind. So the Most High told us not to touch it. It's infested with worms. That's common sense. But they call it the other white meat. And I know farmers are so upset with those who know their Hebrew. And then on the other hand, you speak to a rabbi and ask him, well, is a pig unlawful? Well, we don't believe it that way. We deal with the Talmud. And only if you're kosher, dealing with a certain time of being kosher. So you mean to tell me this week you can say you're not kosher and eat pork? That's what you're telling me? Well, it's not really that way, but kind of like that way. See, that's a confusion concerning them. They claim they're the Jews, but when you put the law on the table, they make an excuse to break it. Saying, well, if it's not kosher, if you're not a certain type of Jew, you can eat pork. What type of madness is that? Where is that in the law of Moses? They'll tell you, well, it's not in the Moses. Aha. See? So they get upset that when we learn it, we trying to be starch, trying to follow it, like, okay, the Lord says, Leviticus 11, no pork. Okay, no pork. They'd be like, well, look at that vision that was given Cornelius. It was all these beasts that was given Peter when he had to meet Cornelius. All these beasts unclean. And the Most High said, God said, don't call anything common or unclean. But what the preachers don't tell you is that Peter was asleep. And when he woke up, he did not eat pork. The Most High was preparing him to deal with an unclean nation, a people whom God's people haven't sat down with before that time. He was preparing Peter to deal with the Gentile, not eat pork. See? Finish reading. So they tell you the Apocrypha, they get upset that we upbraided them concerning the law, that the way that they operate, we say is filthy. Read.
He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness.
Go ahead.
He pronounceth the end of the just to be blessed.
And he pronounces the end of the just to be blessed. So they don't like the fact that we tell you at the end of the day, the poor and the people that are being rejected will receive this earth, that the meek will inherit the earth. They don't want to hear that because why? They're in their kingdom now. They don't want to hear that something is coming better that they won't be involved in. You understand? They don't want to hear that. Read.
And maketh his boast that the Most High is his Father.
And they're upset that we boast that Ahiah is our Father. That the Most High gave us the law. They get upset with that. See that? They are so upset that we say that, hold up, there's no many gods. There's only one God. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Ahiah, Ahiah, who gave the law to Moses. And we're the people whom the law was given to. They get upset because they want you to believe something simple like, well, all nations got different gods and call them different names. But it's still they're all the same gods. That's ignorant as can be. Because if that's the case, why isn't all the earth worshiping the same? They're not the same gods. There are many gods, and there are fallen angels that are worshipped as gods. So don't be ignorant by making a statement that, well, all people got different ways of doing it, but there's one God at the top. No. Every nation has a false god tied to it. And that's the difference between the Egyptians' gods and the God that delivered the Hebrews out of the hands of the Egyptians. Now you tell me the Egyptians were praying to the same God? Don't fall for that ignorance. There's only one God that's above all, Ahiah, Ahiah, and all the other nation gods are fallen angels. With Lucifer at the helm. So they get upset that we bring this out. You should have seen this Jewish guy when we were teaching, and he found out that we knew the name of the Most High. He was perplexed. Like, I haven't seen this guy up in our synagogue meetings. Let me tell you, us learning the name of the Most High and finding out who he was, as far as his name and the presence of praying to him, was not revealed by man. There's not a school you can go to, because every school led us to the same place. If you go into education, they want you to worship one of the fallen angels. Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, yeah, that's the golden calf. Do your research. They would like you to stop there. But there's only one God. His name is Ahia, Ashar Ahia. Read.
Verse 17. Let us see if his words be true.
Let us see if his words be true.
And let us prove what shall happen in the end of him.
Let's prove what will happen at the end of him. So they're saying, okay, if y'all the chosen people, let's see if y'all going to be able to stop our plan against you. And you notice their plan is going along flawless. That will actually lead to the destruction of millions of people whom they call minorities, whom we know are the children of Israel. So when I see this thing with Alexis go down at the so-called naval yard in D.C., I see a bigger picture. I don't see the narrative they're putting out there. I'm seeing the fact that they're actually showing all their law enforcement the new face of terrorism. See? Then they claim that he was on some type of psychotropics. Well, that's fine, because the majority of black people, being ignorant to what's really going on, had their children in school under Ritalin or other some type of psychotropic that they're going to be able to relate it to. And the psychotropics actually give you suicidal tendencies and all that. So they're going to use this narrative to come against us. That's what it's about. It have nothing to do with what happened at the naval yard. Now our people cannot stand up and revolt when we see our people being dragged out of the house as some quote-unquote so-called terrorists. Because they have switched the narrative. They have now changed the face of terrorism, and it's you. That's why it says in Wisdom of Solomon, well, let's see what's going to happen to them. Read.
Verse 18. For if the just man be the son of God,
because if he be the son of God,
he will help him.
He will help him. If that God is the true God, after what we do to them, let's see if their God is going to help them, to show they're planning a plot against us. So you can't say it doesn't matter if there's a conspiracy to destroy a certain people. And only the ignorant will be destroyed in this. The majority of them is the ignorant who believe that everything is the same. No one is plotting anything. Everything is just fine. You don't realize your blood, what's in your blood. And through your bloodline that leads to kings and queens of the children of Israel, that you are a threat to the powers that be. You don't realize it's in your blood. So you're ignorantly thinking that no one is planning anything against you. When it tells you that at the very end of this, they're like, listen, we're coming after you. Okay? We don't care if you know who you are. We're going to destroy you anyway, because your children may wake up. You might be ignorant to it, but someone in your family, you might have a child that wake up one day and realize what's going on. See? Read.
And deliver him from the hands of his enemies.
Let's see if your God is going to deliver you from the hands of your enemies. Read.
Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture.
Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture. So it's no coincidence that after this so-called terrorism narrative, they made it where torture is legal to get information. It doesn't matter if they done made the situation up. Read.
That we may know his meekness and prove his patience.
Let's see if we can prove his patience, similar to how they killed that whole family in the book of Maccabees. Her sons, because her sons wouldn't eat pork, and fried their members in frying pans, strictly because this woman's sons didn't want to eat pork. So they're gonna go. Let me tell you, they're gonna be torturing us and all that, especially if we know we're Israelites, to make us denounce our God. They did it before. Be like, oh, you want the mark of the beast now? You sure you don't want this? That's the time we're coming into. Read.
Let us condemn him with a shameful death.
Let us condemn him with a what?
With a shameful death.
It says, let us condemn him with a shameful death. So they're planning on not only having us go out, but have it be shame where others don't follow the knowledge of the truth. See? Read.
For by his own saying he shall be respected.
By his own saying he shall be respected. Read.
Such things did they imagine and were deceived.
So many things. These are the things that the wicked imagined and was deceived. This is what. So the Most High have given us the imaginations of those who've enslaved us. We know what they're thinking, and that's why they don't want you to have the Apocrypha. Anything else on that?
That's more, but
Okay.
read it all the time.
We're going to take the next 30 minutes, and then we'll be finished to get the last part to show you the reason why they really don't want you to find the truth concerning the Apocrypha. They really don't want you to read it because there's some information showing what was taken out. That's highly important, and it's what happens after the spirit leaves the body, and I'll give you that in a couple of moments.